Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Gonzalez here. Nice to see you. I believe there's a couple people in who have joined us already. So if you have joined us and you're here, feel free to leave a comment already. Or if you have any questions on the classwork that we've been doing, or just any questions in general, feel free to say something in the chat, just so that I can answer those questions if you guys are having trouble. I'm going to give it about a minute or so to let other people join. So, in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll answer any questions that you might have, or that you might, any concerns that you've been having um, about online learning. I'd like to hear how you guys are doing too, if you like. So feel free to leave some stuff in the group chat, in the live chat rather. In the meantime, though, if you guys look down in the description of this video, check the description. There's a link there for you guys to open a resume that I will be working on. So while I let some other people join us, go ahead and go down to the description. And my hands have paint on them, by the way. I had to paint something today, so I didn't have time to get all the paint off. So in case you see my hand with paint on it, that's why. So yeah, in the meantime, while I give it another minute and let other people join the video, please go down to the description and click on the link, and it will take you to the resume that I'm going to be working on. Because for those of you who are in here, as you could tell by the announcement that I left today, it's just going to be a really quick overview on how to complete the resume, or what exactly I'm going to be expecting for you to do. I wanted you guys to be able to see me work on it. So if you just open up the link in the description, down underneath the video, look at the description. There should be a link there. And I'll give it a couple more seconds, or a few more. I'll give it another minute or two, and then I'll start to kind of go over everything. So again, you want to go down to the description, and you want to open up the resume. There's a link there to a Google Doc. It's a resume that I already have ready to go, and I'm just going to go through a couple of things on how to do it. A few details here that you can consider as you're doing yours. I know some of you already have a resume completed. If that's the case, you can submit it, and I'll look over it, and I'll give you maybe some of my comments, or some of the things that I would suggest for you to do. So if you already have a resume, you can upload that as your assignment, and I'll grade that. That's absolutely fine. If not, click on the link below in the description of this video, and it will open up the resume that I have here that I'm going to be working on as I talk to you guys. And then also, just feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to say something. Anybody, I know there's a couple people who have joined already. So feel free to say something. Ask a question about the classwork so far. Anything in regard to online learning, I can try my best to answer, give you guys a response. If not, I'm going to go ahead and get started, because it's coming up on 4 minutes here. And so I would like for you to have the video on. That way you can hear my voice as I'm talking to you, as well as ask questions. And I'll just keep going back from the resume to the video and answer questions that you guys might have regarding online learning, or regarding my class specifically, online learning. But again, this video is really just for just a quick overview of the resume that is due this Friday at 11:59 p.m. So the resume is due Friday. Again, if you already have one, you can submit that, and I'll grade it. And hi, Lisa. Lisa asked, when are we having the ACP test? If I'm not mistaken, it's actually been, there is no ACP test for this year, but I'll double check on that for you, and I'll make an announcement about that. So I'm going to write down any questions that people are having, and then I'll answer the questions and I'll post them onto your Google Classroom period, so that you can just see the answers to the questions. So if I'm not mistaken, Yulisa just asked, when are we having the ACT test? They have been canceled for this year, just because, as you can probably imagine, it would be pretty crazy to try and take the paper test to a digital platform and then having to grade all of that stuff. And so if I'm not mistaken, the district has done it. Don't quote me on that yet. I will find out, and I'll post the announcement onto our Google Classroom. But thank you for the question, Lisa. Nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing okay. All right, so again, one more time. There's a link down in the description for the resume. I'm actually looking at the resume right now. I have both the YouTube live stream going right now, and I also have a window open for the resume. So for those of you who didn't know, if you actually go to your Drive, your regular, if you're logged into your Google Drive already, over to the left where there's a big plus sign that says new, you click on that plus sign, you go down to where it says Google Docs, and before you click on Google Docs, there's a little arrow to the right that says from a template. So again, you would go to new, you would go to the new plus sign up at the left corner, you go down to Google Docs, you hover over Google Docs, and then to the right, there's a little drop-down box that comes out, and you click on from a template. So once you click on from a template, it'll take you to a lot of templates that Google Doc has. You can just have a regular document. There's some other things, I forgot what the other ones are, but if you keep scrolling down, there's like 4 or 5 different resume templates. So when you go to the assignment for this week, it says resume writing assignment. I have also included a link to an example resume that has some things that maybe you want to include. But right now, if you open the link underneath this video on the description, you should be right there with me. And let me see here. I have the resume open right now. So up at the top, you obviously have your name there, which you would change to your first and last name. If you have a hyphenated last name, or if you have 2 last names, that's where you would put the second one. I just go by John Gonzalez, so I put John Gonzalez there. The great thing about this template resume is if you didn't have any idea on how to format it, these templates already come formatted. All you have to do is just go in, erase the information or delete the information that they have, and then add your information. So it's a really great way to get started for those of you who have never written a resume. Really quickly, while I'm typing in this other information here, obviously a resume just is, for those of us who don't know or haven't used one or haven't made one yet for ourselves, pretty much any job that you go to look for, any job that you are seeking to apply to, will more than likely ask you for a resume. It's unless they just want to interview you, they typically ask for you to have a resume. And you can either submit that digitally or you can submit it in paper copy. And really, your resume kind of stays with you for the whole course of your life. You're always updating it. You're always putting anything new, leaving behind old information, adding new information, adding any new skills that you have. Like, for example, for you juniors, at the moment, your resume under education is going to say Sunset High School, expected graduation date 2021, right? Because you don't graduate until next year. And then once you graduate, you have to go back into your resume, update it, and put the year that you actually graduated. Same thing for those of you who are pursuing higher education. You're going to always refer back to your resume and just continue to update it, make it better. And it's something that just kind of stays with you for the course of your entire life, really. And once you get to a point where you maybe have graduated college already, or maybe you've had several jobs, then sometimes it's not uncommon for people to have several different resumes. Because what you want to do when you get to that point is you tailor your resume for the specific job that you're looking for. So a resume is a very important thing that you have to start developing your skills on how to update it, how to have your best looking resume, basically how to put your best foot forward, and how to, in other words, brag on yourself and say, here's everything that I know how to do. Here's everything that I've done. Here are all of my skills. Here's my education. Choose me for the job, right? So up at the top of the resume, you have the name. Right underneath the resume is where we have our goals statement, or our statement of goals. And that's where you just very quickly want to tell the person, whoever it is that's reading your name, reading your resume, what exactly you expect to do in the foreseeable future. In other words, like in the next couple of years, what is it that you expect to do? For you as a junior, I would say that your goal right now, let's say that you want to graduate high school and you want to go to a university as soon as you graduate high school. So your statement of your goals could read something along the lines of, I plan to graduate from Sunset High School with a high school diploma and enroll in, let's say you want to go to UT Austin. So your statement would say, I plan to graduate Sunset High School with a high school diploma. That's where you can include maybe like you've specifically gotten some kind of, let's say you went to, what do we have at Sunset? Let's say you were in like the medical explorers and you have experience with health in some sort of area. Then you would say, I plan to graduate high school with a high school diploma, specializing in healthcare, and enroll in the University of Texas at Austin. That's a pretty simple statement of goals. And that lets your employer know that you have an idea of what you're going to do, that you're not just graduating high school, you're not just a senior or a junior, and you're not sure what you want to do, but that you have a plan, right? So that's the whole purpose of a statement of goals, and it typically goes right underneath your name. You'll notice that on the resume that I have open, your name is really big. You always want to leave that kind of information really big the way it is. There's a reason they have your name so big, and it's so that when the person is reading your resume, goes through it, they can there's a name there that they can recognize, right? Because employers typically go through dozens and dozens of resumes when a specific job is open. So when you have that important information right at the top, they can remember. And when you call in the next time and say, hi, I submitted my resume, I'm just waiting to be called back. You say, my name is so-and-so, they can say, oh yeah, I remember reading that really big name on the resume. So up at the top of the one that I have here on Google Docs, you have your address, which is just whatever your address is. You have a telephone number. Anytime they ask for contact information, you always want to make sure that you give a reliable number, right? Don't give your parents' number if you have your own cell phone number, or if you know that your cell phone doesn't really work that good, maybe you do want to give them your parents' number so that your parents can take a message. But always make sure that it's a reliable contact, some sort of reliable contact information. So you have your telephone number and your email address. Give them a good email address. Don't just put an email address that you don't have access to or that you never check, or like, oh, I'll just put one because maybe they just want an email. No, it's very likely that they might contact you to your email address. And wouldn't it suck if you give them a bad one and they never contact you because you couldn't access it or you forgot your password to your email address, which is something that happens a lot. So keep that in mind. Marco, hi, Marco. Marco says, does the information have to be 100% accurate? Yes, as much as you can. You never want to stretch the truth. You never want to say more about yourself, because then it could be that they expect something from you that maybe you don't know how to do, or maybe that you kind of stretch the truth about, and that just really makes you look bad. It kind of leaves a bad taste in your employer's mouth, and if they ever see your name again on some kind of list, they always like, oh, that's that one guy who said so-and-so, but then they couldn't deliver. But if you're talking about your contact information and stuff, yes, you definitely want to make sure all of that stuff is as accurate as possible, because employers can contact you with in a lot of different methods. So you want to make sure that all of the information you put down is accurate, even if it hasn't happened yet. Like, for example, your graduation. Everything goes well, and we get back to school, and we're able to take classes again, and you're able to graduate. That's why you put expected graduation date, right? You always want to put something like that. If you're referring to maybe like the university in your statement of goals, maybe you haven't been accepted yet. Let's say again, back to my example of going to UT Austin. Let's say you want to go to UT Austin, but you don't, obviously you haven't applied yet. You don't know if you've been accepted. That's absolutely fine for you to say that you plan on going there. If for whatever reason you don't end up there, then you just switch the information later. That's why I said the resume is constantly being updated. It's definitely what we call a working resume, which means that it may not be final, but you've got it updated and you are constantly checking on it, making changes to reflect what is actually happening in your life. But you definitely want to let them know about your goals. You definitely want to let them know about your plans, and that typically happens in this statement of goals up underneath your name. Thanks for the question, though, Marco. Thank you for participating. Okay, so again, the reason why I really like the resumes that they have here is because a resume for a high school student is going to look very different from a resume, for example, my resume. I've obviously graduated high school already. I've graduated with a bachelor's degree already. I'm actually getting a graduate's degree, a master's right now. I'm currently in the process. I'm taking classes. So all of that kind of stuff I would add to my resume, right? I've worked a lot of kinds of different jobs. So in my experience, I can put a lot more things than maybe a high school student has, because you guys haven't had the opportunity. You haven't had the time to work and to experience a lot of different job opportunities, right? So it's going to look a lot different. But what I really like is that it has, if you look at the one that I have here, and I'll just go ahead and remind anybody who's just joined us, if you are watching right now, there is a link in the description below the video. If you open that link, it will take you to to the resume that I'm currently working on right now. And like I shared it with you so that I don't edit it. You can just watch, but at least this way you know, you can see my mouse, you can see the things that I'm pointing out, you can see where I am. So open the link in the description. There's an experience column there. In the experience column, I know some of you had a chance to work and have had a job at some point. Maybe it's at like a grocery store, or maybe some of your parents have their own business. And you've gone to work with your parents at some point in your, or maybe even you've babysat and people have paid you to babysit. That's experience as well. This goes back to me saying you want to be as accurate as possible. You don't want to lie, obviously, but you do want to let people know that you haven't just been sitting around on the couch playing video games, right? You have some sort of experience. You have had to have some sort of accountability, even if that was working with your parents or babysitting, right? Maybe you didn't babysit for a company or for an organization and you just kind of did it on your own, but that still shows responsibility. That still shows that you've been being paid, and that still shows that you have experience. For example, taking care of kids, right? That's something that you can include under experience. So even if you don't have a lot of job experience, that's absolutely fine. You're a high school student. When an employer is looking at your resume and they know that you're a high school student, they obviously think, okay, this is a high school student, right? So they already are going in with like a way of how to think about your resume. This is where you can show them that you're above average or that you do have experience. This is where you can show them that you've been part of clubs or organizations in high school. That's what I would say for your experience. So for the company, unless it was actually a company, let's say that you, like in that example, you did babysit. So you would say babysitting. And location, that's the location for any of your experiences. Just put the city wherever you did it. If you live in Arlington and you used to babysit in Arlington, then you would put babysitting Arlington. Or if it was in Oak Cliff or Dallas, you would put, Dallas, stick to cities. You would just put the city, right? And then the job title, that's where it kind of changes. So the job title can kind of be switched with the company. If you babysat, then here, all I would put is maybe just like babysitting and then Dallas, right? Oops, Dallas. Let's say that you worked for, because I know that there's a couple of my students that I've seen here. Let's say you worked at El Rancho. So you would say El Rancho, location, again, Dallas, right? And here is where it's you can switch the job title. You can say cashier, right? Or maybe you could even say you worked in produce, or you were a stalker. Um, that's where you specify what your position was. And then obviously for the month, typically on your resume, you don't have to put the exact day that you started working there. You just have to put the month and the year up until, let's say you worked there for 3 months. So you would say, so let's say I worked there from, April 2020, this year, up until, let's go into the future, April, May, June, July, let's say July, right? So July 2020, right? That would be 3 months. If you're still working at a place, then you just put the day, the month, and the year that you started working up until, and then you would write present. You type in present. That means that you are still currently working there. And then underneath, what I would do is just write down some of your responsibilities. So like if it was babysitting, like I have here, I would say supervise children, and provide provide care for specific amount of times. A specific amount of time, right? That's a really simple thing of just to write what exactly it was that you were doing. Because for each of these, you want to make sure to write that, again, you want to say how much responsibility you have. You don't want to bend the truth. You don't want to stretch it either, but you do want to make it seem, let the potential employer know that you had some responsibility to do, even if it's normal for you, or even if you didn't think it was that much of a responsibility. You still want to make it seem like it was legitimate amount of responsibility that was left up to you, right? So at El Rancho, if you were a cashier, you would say handle and balance a till. A till would be like your register that you get full of money, and provide, let's say excellent, right? Excellent customer service, right? So you, again, that's not bending the truth. Whether or not you provided excellent customer service, that's what your boss expected from you, right? So that's what you would put. That's actually, I used to work at Tom Thumb, and customer service was a huge thing at Tom Thumb. So that was something that I always made sure to put on my resumes back before I graduated college. Right after I graduated high school, is that I was expected to provide excellent customer service, right? And again, that just shows employers that you know what you were doing. It wasn't just a job that you were going to just to punch in and punch out and get a little check every week, but that it shows employers that you knew that you were getting experience out of it. And again, the whole point of a resume is to, again, show the employer that to show them your character, your set of like skills that you know, and to show them that you are worthy of getting the job, right? Sorry, here I'm opening up some things for some people who have requested access. Thank you, Kenya and Natalie. Let me see here. Please let me know if you are getting access now. Any other questions? Remember, the live chat is open, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave those questions. And I'm going through this a little quickly just because I don't want to take you guys this whole day here. I want you guys to keep working on it. And I just wanted to explain a couple of things in case you didn't know. For education, you want to include the entire name of the school. So it would be Sunset High School, right? And for the location on a resume, all you have to put is the city and the state. So I would put Dallas, Texas. And for the degree, you would type in high school diploma, right? High school diploma, because that is what you will receive. For example, on my resume under college, I put the University of North Texas at Dallas, and then for the degree, I would put sociology, because that was the specific degree that I received. And in the months, that's where you would put August, because we all start school in August, right? For you guys, what would it be? When did you guys start? 2017, 2016? And then the expected graduation date, which would be May 2021, right? And then right underneath that is where you can write any specific focuses that you had at Sunset. Like for those of you who focus on health, or who focus on criminal justice or law, or maybe art, whatever your endorsement was, that's what you can write underneath the first part of education. And then for you guys, because you're high school students, that's really all you would write under education, because no one has gotten accepted into college yet, even though you do plan on going. And no one is enrolled in college, if I'm not mistaken, unless you guys happen to be in what is that, in the academy? I'm going blank here. And maybe you're taking like dual credit classes. In that case, you could write the college that you're doing dual credit. All right, Talia Gonzalez, you got in, nice. I see a couple of you on here now. Again, if you have any other questions, please let me know. I'm going to try and keep this to half an hour. So almost done here. Thank you guys who are watching for sticking in there. It looks like most of my third period is on here, so that's awesome. So all right, so I'm back on the resume. Up in the corner there where it says skills, that is just anything that you've learned in the experience that you have. Like maybe, for example, working at a grocery store or working somewhere where you've had to talk to people. That's like people skills. Like you could say good communication skills or good social skills. If you're the kind of person who can easily go up to someone and start talking to them and have a conversation, that's a skill, because a lot of people can't do that. And there are jobs that are looking specifically for people who have good social skills. Like, for example, if you're trying to get a job selling something or being a salesman of any kind, you have to have good people skills, good social skills in order to be successful at a job like that. So that's definitely, excuse me, I have something in my eye. That's definitely something that you can type down as a skill. Let's say maybe you were in the robotics club and you learned how to build and how to engineer things out of parts and work with electrical equipment and stuff. That's a skill as well. Really, it can be just anything. It's taking the things that you know and trying to put them out there as something that could be useful at in a job, right? Like social skills, or like building things, engineering. The awards, that one's kind of self-explanatory. If you've gotten any awards throughout the school year, if you've had any kind of recognition, like maybe you were in a club or an organization and you got some kind of award, or you got some sort of recognition, some kind of certificate. Like I know that people who were in the DECA, I'm pretty sure DECA offers a lot of certificates and things like that that you can receive. Those are the kinds of awards that you can put down there in awards. And if you didn't get any awards, then you can really just delete that part. That's absolutely fine. Again, you don't want to tell them that you won an award that you haven't won. And then here's a really important one as well: languages. I know like the majority of my students are bilingual, and that's awesome. That is a very great skill to have. That is a very great thing to include in your resume, because the employers are always looking for bilingual people, multilingual people. Just because what's the word? You turn into a really good investment. You turn into a really good asset for them to have. You'd be surprised some of the jobs that I've had where they had to call on me for help, even though it wasn't my job. But because of the simple fact that I spoke Spanish, I was very useful to them. And that might give you the advantage over someone who maybe isn't bilingual. So you definitely want to include that in languages. And something I always say to do is to type fluent, because I know a lot of you are fluent. It's not like you learned Spanish just on the way and you can kind of speak it. Most of you, the majority of you, speak both Spanish and English very well. So you could say fluent in both English and Spanish. Right? So that's definitely something that you want to include as well. Again, the resume is something that you are letting your employer know something about you, something that will hopefully get you like maybe a phone interview, right? Because a lot of times employers pick who the people that they call based off of their resume. That's why it's such an important tool. That's why it's such an important document. It's a living document, and I mean living because, like I said, it's always changing. And then sometimes, like I mentioned at the beginning, people have several different resumes. And they're constantly updating their resumes and submitting specific ones based off of the job that you're trying to get. So there's that. If you have any other questions, I just kind of went by briefly every little section. If you have any other questions, though, feel free to email me, or right now, within the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions for me to answer. That way, I can answer the questions and hopefully not leave you guys too confused. But remember, for those of you who are on it right now, if you help me spread the word, this is due Friday at 11:59 p.m. I'm going to do another video. Actually, I think this week's a B week. So for my 8A kiddos, I won't see you again this week. But I'm going to try and do some sort of like interactive video, like YouTube Live or something like that, just to kind of answer questions and be available for you guys if you have any questions. Given our whole situation, right? So I'm gonna let it go for a little, maybe one more minute. If you have any questions, write them in the chat. Thank you, Yulisa. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Natalia, for leaving a comment. If there's not anyone else, that's gonna be it, I think. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, to submit the attendance on the day that I give the attendance question. It's like, I can't count you present if you come back the next day and then mark it. So try and do it. It's as easy as logging in, clicking on the attendance question, and answering in a complete sentence, right? Because I have to submit attendance by the end of the day. So when you submit attendance late, it's like you weren't there. So please make sure to submit attendance the day of. Even if you don't do the work that day, just log in, click on the attendance question for the day, answer in a complete sentence, and that's it. You're done, right? All right, any other questions? Like I said, I wanted to keep it kind of short. Just know that I will be continuing to add YouTube videos like this as often as I can. So get any questions that you have ready for the next one. The next one should be, if it's a B week, I'm going to try and do one for you guys, for you 8A kids on Friday, just to answer any questions. It might be even like a Zoom meeting or something, in case you guys want to just ask questions or see how I'm doing. But if not, thank you, everybody who's on right now, for joining me. I really appreciate it. Please help spread the word to everybody else that I will be doing the YouTube live videos from now on until the end of the year. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions on the class assignment. It's just the resume. It's going to be due by this Friday. Again, I will repeat, if you already have a resume going, like maybe that you did in some other class at school or that another teacher helped you with, maybe last year or something like that, you can submit that one. I will grade it and give you some feedback on it. That's absolutely fine. But just make sure you submit it, because it will be a grade. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining me for this half hour, and we'll see you again hopefully this week. All right. Again, email me with any questions if you have questions. All right. Bye, guys.